Welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam Smith, and inside this featured product video, I am very excited to be checking out Neoprene mats. I'm a huge fan of using Neoprene mats in all of my board game playthroughs on and off camera, and after stumbling across RollinMats, I have found some extremely well-designed third-party mats for board games, and I really wanted to bring this individual to light as I really think their playmats are awesome. And not only are they providing standard playmats for many different games, of which I'm a huge fan of, but they're also customizable to a certain extent in terms of multiple layouts. And who doesn't like having options when you pick up a playmat for a specific game? There might be a certain layout that actually might work for you better as a solo gamer than if you were playing with multiple players around the table, and RollinMats goes that extra step to do just that. Now inside this video, we're going to take a look at two different sets of mats here. We have Kingdom Death Monster mats and we have HeroQuest mats. You'll be able to see how different designs work across the board, and of course they come in varying sizes as well. Once we get through all the playmats, if you have any interest in picking up any of them from the website, www.rollinmats.com, I have a coupon code. It is in the pinned comment and video description to give everyone in the Rolling Solo community 20% off, specifically HeroQuest mats and the Kingdom Death Monster mats. Let's take a look at HeroQuest first. This is the standard size game board that comes inside the box. I put this on top of the playmat that I picked up, which I'll show you in a moment. But one thing you'll notice right away, if you take a look at the square size, this is a 1x1 or a 1" by 1" square. Every single square on this entire game board standard in the game box that you get when you pick up HeroQuest is 1x1. Whereas with the playmat, you have the customization option to choose to either have exactly a 1x1 for inches. You can go 1.1811 times that exact same size, so just a little bit bigger, and that's actually exactly what I have here. You might be wondering, well, why would you do that? You'll see in a second when I place the miniatures on the game board that comes inside the box versus the playmat, how much extra play and area space that gives you to place things in close proximity without stuff banging into each other and being knocked over. I've gone ahead and placed some miniatures and some furniture doorways onto the game board that comes inside the base box. This is not the Neoprene mat. So as you can see with this standard size game board at 1" by 1", these pieces actually are a bit bigger than the space provided in the game board in the box. And this is actually what it's trying to fix with this customizable playmat in terms of giving you larger size squares to place things inside of. It makes placing objects adjacent to each other much easier. As you can see, this furniture piece right here actually juts right out into other squares, making it even tougher to get everything into one room and fit. Now, is this a huge problem? Not really, but it's something that the playmat can resolve by upping the size of the squares so that everything does fit. And I went ahead and chose the size of square, which ends up being 30 millimeters by 30 millimeters, which is 1.1811 times the exact same thing, which is just a little bit bigger than 1 inch, allowing for more room. Now let's take away the game board and take a look at the playmat underneath. And something else to watch when we change out the game board for the Neoprene mat is the color change that's going to occur going to the Neoprene mat. It is a vast difference. Here's a look at the Neoprene mat, and as you can clearly see, the colors in each of the rooms and the actual printing itself is vastly superior to the game board provided inside the box. And on top of that, all the miniatures, furniture, and everything are more easily fitting inside of the spaces. There's actually even a little bit of room and play in those spaces to ensure that all the miniatures and all the furniture can fit inside their squares without any kind of crowding issues into adjacent squares. Now for me, as an avid board gamer, when I saw the vivid colors coming out of this print on Neoprene mats, and I saw how much of a boost it was to the overall immersion factor of the game, and also at the same time with that customization added in, I was very impressed. It's also worth mentioning, you can even go to 40 millimeters by 40 millimeters per square, which is even bigger and more space for you to place things inside of. So that ends up being just over 1.5 inches on each side of the square, which is pretty impressive in terms of, again, scaling. That'll make the map enlarge on the table, of course, so the trade-off is whether you want a larger mat or not. This playmat that I picked up is 33 by 24.8 inches, which I think is the perfect size. Again, if you go down to the standard board game size that was in the box at 1 by 1 inches, the size of the mat drops to 28.7 by 21.2 inches. So you can see as you start scaling it down or up, you're going to have a playmat that's going to increase in size overall. There's also even one beyond the one that I've mentioned now, which I believe has shown up on the site and wasn't there before. There is an oversized massive mat. I believe that one is called the Big Edition. It is absolutely gigantic, and something else to mention is all these neoprene mats are 2 millimeters thick, and there is stitching all the way around the outside. The giant one clocks in around, again, it depends on which square size you're going with, but if you stuck with this square size, for instance, and you just wanted a larger mat overall, you're looking at around 43 by 43 inches. So to summarize with this playmat, I really do believe that the 1.18 inch size in terms of squares is the perfect one to go for, as you're going to have space for everything. The furniture really feels like it fits properly on the game board, same with the miniatures, and there's nothing issues-wise when you have things adjacent to each other, as you can see down below there. I think it's safe to say that as a community, whenever we see a third-party playmat that does a better job of the board included inside the box, it piques our interest. Well, how about this playmat? This is the 2 aisles playmat for HeroQuest, keeping the standard room structure all the exact same, but now adding an additional aisle into the fray, which of course will change up the gameplay strategy and make things a bit more interesting. This is one that I could not back out of. I had to pick this one up. It's just very cool once you become accustomed to HeroQuest and the single lane throughout everywhere in the dungeon. It's really nice to have that spacing, especially when you're ripping through combat and running throughout the dungeon. This one is also customizable in terms of the size of the squares. Again, I went with the 1.18 as I feel like that is the best, most average size. And again, that keeps the playmat from expanding to a size beyond what a typical table would probably want to see. But if you're a huge HeroQuest fan and you're playing with many people around the game table, you may want to enlarge this map even more. Now let's move along to the next playmat, which I'm sure most of you recognize just from the stone faces that you can see laying all around. This is Kingdom Death Monster. This is a compatible playmat for that game. This one is the slots version. Now, if you check out that particular entry on the site, you're going to find a number of customizable options for everybody. You're going to find ones that are just for co-op, ones that are just a slots version that are great for solo of KDM, the original. You're going to find just the mat of just the actual game board itself without anything on the left and right side. So essentially take the center of this mat and that's all you get. You're also going to have a square co-op option. You have a central option, and then you get into the Gambler's Chest specific designs for solo co-op, square co-op, and solo number 2, which is another variation to again choose between, which is awesome. So if you're a solo player and you've got Gambler's Chest and you want to be able to have everything it offers into the playmat, that is all compatible. It's not inside the one I'm showing right now. This one here is the slots version. It was one of the more earlier iterations of this Kingdom Death Monster mat, but I love this thing still. One of the major bonuses of this playmat is that in comparison to the game board, which I don't have on screen to compare against, but I think all of us that have KDM are very familiar with that game board, the colors on it are quite muted, to say the least. This playmat, although dark, really does pop on the table and looks so much better than the actual game board itself. Now, this being the slots version, there are slots all over the game mat, and you'll see in the other varying iterations of this playmat, there is watermarked areas for a number of game components. And again, you can select whichever one works for you best, especially as a solo player. You might want a design that has maybe the character dashboards right up close, or maybe you want them all shifted over to the right. There's varying different designs you'll find on the site that will work for you. And I can tell you the effort in doing that with those different variations is really appreciated, as typically third-party playmats, again, are just one and done. The extra level of attention to detail from RollinMats on this stuff is awesome to see. You'll notice that the design of the game board itself, where you're actually playing with your miniatures versus the sideboard area here, has 2 distinct backgrounds which look extremely good. More watermarked areas here, for example, the hit location deck, hit location discard, the AI deck, its discard location. We got moods and traits along the bottom. And on the far right-hand side of this playmat, for the slots version, we have the hunt board built right in. It starts at the very beginning with the start area, moving left to right down the row, and then goes over to starvation and back down the row again, with overwhelming darkness slot at the very bottom. Now, when you do check out RollinMats.com, you're going to find, as I mentioned earlier, a number of different variations. Two of the ones you should definitely check out now that the Gambler's Chest has been released is Gambler's Chest Solo and Gambler's Chest Solo 2. These are two variations of the playmat, which I think are going to align best with currently what has been released to date, and that's probably what you want to go after. Although, if you just have Kingdom Death Monster from the past, something like this, the slots version is perfectly fine. This mat, like all the others, is 2mm in size and also is stitched all the way around the outside, so you never have to worry about fraying on playmats, which is something that third-party playmats often struggle with. This one being stitched, you won't have issues in that department in the long run, which is great. Also, in terms of the size of this slots version, for people that are interested, it's about 47 inches left to right and about 24 inches top to bottom. The final playmat I want to show you is one of the ones I mentioned. It is the Gambler's Chest Solo version. This one is going to be one of those most recent additions. Again, he also has the Gambler's Chest Solo 2, so you want to check that out if you want something that's a little less square in terms of size and goes further left to right, similar to the slots version. That's going to be great for folding tables. This is going to be great if you have a standard size board game table, as it's more of a square. It comes in at around 47 inches by 36 inches approximately. Now, this is going to have the exact same slots as the slots version I talked about before, up in the top left and top right, but the things that change is there will be a focus and special mentions for the Gambler's Chest throughout this one, and you're also going to see many different reference areas here. They're going to help you as you go through the game as a solo player, also to keep you on track when you're playing. On the right side of the playmat, we have the settlement phase and the hunt phase all listed out. Very handy reminders going through gameplay. You also get a showdown phase reference, as well as a special mention for actually killing the monster. Another nice addition on the playmat is a severe injury table built right into the playmat itself for easy reference across all body parts that can be demolished, crushed, and completely obliterated. And you'll see this continues all the way down the left-hand side to the bottom left corner. And as a solo player, you're going to want to keep track of everything you have going on. For your characters, you'll have 4 different areas here for all the characters. Again, you can choose to place them in the watermarked areas, or if you have your own dashboards that maybe keep the cards in place a bit better, you can just simply place them right on top. You have iconography all the way through here, and you can track your wounds and hits as you go along. There's also a nice addition here for the Gambler's Chest for the Dreaded pack, and it's right there front and center, and a space right here to do some rolling. So the question is going to be, if you're a fan of Kingdom Death Monster and you have the Gambler's Chest, you're definitely going to want to go with this iteration. However, there are 2 different versions of it. If you want to go with something that's a little more standard size, a square like this one is going to be your best bet. Although, if you have issues with depth, in other words, the table you're using is not going to be deep enough to house this particular playmat, definitely check out the Gambler's Chest Solo 2, as it starts to place a lot of the character dashboards and this information here to the left and right, which makes the entire playmat a lot more like the slots version, but updated with the Gambler's Chest information and the additional reference sheets for all the severe injury tables as well, and the references for the hunt phase, settlement phase, showdown phase, but it makes it more suitable for a folding table style setup, which a lot of people do with campaign games where they set them up and they lead them for long periods of time. And that, my friends, is going to wrap up the feature product video for RollinMats. And if you're interested in any of the mats that you saw here, then you're going to want to use the coupon code in the pinned comment and video description, specifically on the website, RollinMats.com. This individual does also have an Etsy, but do not use the coupon there. It will not work for you. But on the website, it will. Hopefully, one of these mats, if not maybe multiple of them, interest you. And hopefully, you'll find a variation or a customization option that fits you best. Now, let me know in the comments down below if you've already picked up a mat from RollinMats, because I know that this one is already out there in the wild. People have these and are enjoying them. So if you already have one and you can speak to how much you enjoy it, or maybe you don't like it, let us know in the comments down below, because as a community, it's always good to hear feedback from all sides. If you want to talk more about these mats or anything else around the solo board game community, we've got a Discord set up specifically for that, as well as a Facebook group, which are constantly churning with conversations around the industry. And also, if you're not a member of the channel, there's perks specific to Rolling Solo members. If you hit the join button on the homepage, you can become one of the members supporting the channel and its growth and gaining some perks along the way. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.